Good morning. Hand today is going to be pocket aces. In his hand, the button raises to 3.5 big blinds. This player's playing 26-12, over 188 hands. His VPIP from the button's 46%, with the limp first in at 20%, so 1 out of 5, and then he's raised 3 out of 5 times where he's had the opportunity to do so. When I look at his notes, I've got, and again, I don't want to look at the called 3-bets, but I have him noted as being honest, an honest c-better on the flop and turn, and honest caller, honest turn call. So this is 27%. I think it's probably accurate. He could be, maybe 30% with some of these aces. So maybe, let's say, with all of those aces, maybe widening up even more, because it is raise first in, and that's something I would do too. Just kind of really open up my range. Small blind folds. Aces is a 3-betting hand no matter what. This is my 3-bet versus button. You can see I'm 3-betting hands that aren't that great. Also, if I think villain's getting out of line, we add even more hands. So his attempt to steal is 27% right now. I don't think he's overly aggressive, so I'm not going to really expand my range by much. Maybe I might throw in, King Jack or Queen Jack offsuit. Maybe Ace 10 off as a 3-bet, because that's like a 3-better call. Just looking at all of that, we can kind of maybe expand it a little bit. This is 3-bet. Raise to 12's appropriate. It's 3.5 big blinds. We go to 12. We're out of position on the hand. Not terribly, wouldn't be too unhappy if he folds, but this is kind of, I would make this raise with my weakest hands, so 7-6 off, and as you can see, with my strongest hands. So I raise and he calls, and that means then once he calls, I think that's when his range starts to contract. I think like the suited offsuits get folded. I think we start seeing some folding of our like ace X hands. I'm still going to leave like the suited kings, suited aces, because I think those are flush draws and people often play those. But once we see his, what he's calling with, that kind of gives us an idea of does he continue doing that. I will say, I think kings and aces, he's probably 4-betting those. I think queens are questionable, whether people 4-bet. We can see that out of 58 attempts, he is not 3-bet yet. I think it's because he's looking for something like this. So I'm eliminating those hands from his range. Flop comes king, king, 4. So that's actually decent flop for us. Chance that he flops the king is going to be much more diminished now that there are 2 kings on the board. We have advantage. We have quads. Now he does have a lot of king X hands, but he also has a lot of ace X, suited aces. So I think this is a situation when we look at a hand like this, we could be ahead. I think this is a good c-betting flop for us, especially after 3-betting. I mean, it matches our strong range. But at the same time, we could be like way behind the king already. So I think this is a situation where we could bet or check. If we're checking here, we're checking, and we're gonna need to check some of our bigger hands for protection. So yeah, like quad kings, I think we're checking. I even think like ace king is checking. Probably king queen is checking. That's getting protection. And I think also aces. So if we look at villain's hand, he's got these underpairs that I think are also looking at this board and saying, well, if 2 kings are out there, then my opponent also is less likely to have a king. So he may be aware that this flop's going to be hard to hit now. So I checked, and we're going to say I'm going to probably check quads. I'm going to probably check 3 of a kind here. And I think with the overpair, we also check. I think we lead these mid pairs, pocket pair less than the top card. If we bet, we're going to have way too much 2-card backdoor flush draws. I think our bet is something more along the lines of, let's get rid of our kings. Well, the kings are still checking no matter what. Yeah, I guess so. We're close. I think we're doing something like that. And then with our check, oops, hold on, no, not with our check. We're betting those. We're betting those. Get those middle pair. Yeah. Okay, so we're betting those, which will have more draws out there, and that's okay because we're hoping he folds. And then I think we're checking those along with our no-made hands and probably our aces, as long as we don't have them as part of our 2-card backdoor flush draws. So something more like that. Villain bets. Bets more than half pot. This could be, I don't think it's a full house. I don't really think it's 3 of a kind. I just feel like it's a little too big for 3 of a kind. And I think 3 of a kind might actually check behind. Check as a trap. So I'm gonna go with like pocket pair less than the top card, middle pair, pocket pair below the board. I think maybe ace high could also be doing that. So we're gonna go something like that, and that means that I'm gonna fold the ace high hands, the no-made hands. Those are the hands that I don't think we're continuing with, but we're continuing with all of our better hands. At this point, we're going to be pretty darn strong with our check calling range. Would I check raise? I don't think so. Not on this board. If villain's going to take the lead and bet like this, then I say we let him. Now we could always check raise some. We could use some of our, let's see here, ace king. Yeah, ace king is a check raise. We could use some of our aces as a check raise, some of our quads as a check raise. But I kind of like the overpair, especially aces, just as a check call, because if we check raise, we're raising up to, well, we're basically raising all in at this point. And note we started with, let's go back. So if we only started with 67. So yeah, I think, with the check raise, we're check raising all in. I think with the check raise all in, he's going to dump everything that we beat and call with everything that we don't. So I think we call. Yeah, our hand is starting to look strong, but villain might think, well, I have ace queen, and I'm just bluff catching maybe. Who knows? All right, so 2 spades hits. That doesn't connect. So now that we had the check call, we're basically going to be check calling again. So we check. Pot's 57. We have 39.7 left. He shoves all in. And now it's a question of, okay, would he do this? How strong would he do this with? Make this play, because those are both fairly big bets, more than half pot, and now it's all in, which is, I don't know, 2/3, 4/5, 40, 60, yeah, 2/3, about 2/3 pot. Would he do this with pocket pair less than the top card? Would he do this with full house? Again, yeah, I think with 2s he could have a full house, but I almost feel like he would go smaller with a full house. Maybe these pocket pair less than the top cards, the middle pair. Maybe not the weak pair. It could. Possibly even the flush draw at this point. I think with the flush draw, he's just kind of bluffing at this point. So something like this. Again, I think we're calling with all of these over pair plus. So that's going to be easy call for us. And we induced it. And I think this might be a little bit better than leading the flop with our aces, because he could just fold all of his under pairs and fold all of them instead of making the play that he did. So we did call. We see the river of a 10, 10 of diamonds. Still thinking I'm good, and he shows 8s. So does he have that? Yeah, he does. Oops. Yeah, the weak pair. He's got it in his range. So we got paid. I mean, that's what we have. So do we have this called 3-bets in position? Yeah, 8s and then ace-9 suited. Glad I didn't look at that. We could take a note that, we definitely should take a note here of how he played that hand, because it means that we can induce more bets from him. He did play that aggressively. So RFI on button, 3.5 big blinds with 8 of diamonds, 8 of hearts. Call 12 big blind, 3-bet from big blind. All right, and then he bet, I don't know, 2/3 maybe? 2/3 pot. 2/3 pot all in. And we'll do like a dash for the river. So king of diamonds, king of hearts, 4 spades, 2 spades, 10 of diamonds. So we get that down there. So yeah, this is, not everyone does this. Not everyone makes plays like this. I think even against a more passive player, I think the flop check is okay. If we bet, we're getting. If we bet our value hands, they're just gonna fold. So at least by checking, we give him a chance to say, well, maybe he has ace queen or ace jack or ace 10, or maybe he has something like 7s or 8s, and I could take it away from him. You might induce a bluff in a thinking player by checking here. I think a good thinking player, once they bet the flop and they see that I call, probably are checking behind on the turn. But I think that has to be a really good player. So, if we know a player's pretty decent, we respect their game, and we check and they bet the flop, and then on the turn it comes to two of spades, that might be a good time to go ahead and throw out a bet. We do have the ace of spades, so we block like the ace X suited, the ace X spades, the nut flush draws. We do block those, so we lead it out, and it's going to be hard for him. Then he might look at this and say he's betting the draw, and then make that call. Whereas had we checked to him, he's just going to say, I'm going to check behind. We're going to try to, see a showdown at that point. I like the turn bet a little bit better than checking the turn, having it check through, and then bet the river. The reason being, we're getting some money in now. And this would be a case where we just go ahead and just lead our entire stack here. That's, almost 2/3. If we're doing it with, let's say, quads and maybe even aces, again, you can kind of mix it up a little bit, but maybe you lead 20 big blinds, 18 big blinds, something ridiculously small. Well, I consider that ridiculously small, just to make them think, does he have the quads, or is he doing this just because he's gonna rep that spade? It's not my favorite, but again, I do play against some people who I've played against for thousand plus hands. So against those people, you can kind of mix up your game just a little bit. In a live game, so I do play some live. I think check call is fine on the flop. And I think that is also, I think there's more people in the live game that would check behind on the turn. Even a player like this who has eights would probably check behind the turn. All right, so not too disappointed in this hand or in my play. So hopefully if you enjoyed this, then you come back and watch tomorrow's hand.